now that you've repeated those rounds, we're going to start round 8. You chain 2. You're going to skip the puff stitch and work 3 front post double crochet stitches. So there's 1, there's number 2, and number 3. Now we are going to chain 2 and work 3 more front post double crochet stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Next, we are going to work 5 double crochet stitches right here in between those 2 puff stitches from the previous row. So there's 1, here's number 2, here's number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now we'll begin the pattern repeat. We're going to front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, 2, and now work 3 front post double crochet stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And when you get to your next spot, you can probably already guess, we are going to work 5 double crochet stitches right here in between those 2 puff stitches from the previous row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you will just keep repeating this pattern all the way around until you reach your last 3 front post double crochet stitches. So go ahead and keep working and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see here, I'm coming up to the end of this round. I'm going to chain 2 and work 3 front post double crochet stitches, just like this. Number 2 and number 3, and we are going to skip that puff stitch and slip stitch to our first stitch to complete this round. And now you've completed round 8. And this is what your work should look like. Okay, for our next round, we are going to chain 2. We are going to work 3 front post double crochet stitches. So here's number 1, here's number 2, and here's number 3. Next, right here in this chain space, we are going to chain 2, slip stitch to that chain space, and chain 2. Next, we're going to work 3 front post double crochet stitches, number 2, and number 3. And now we are going to chain, slip stitch to that 3rd double crochet from the previous round, and chain again. And as you can see, we're going to start our pattern repeat. We're going to work 3 front post double crochet stitches, chain 2, slip stitch to that chain space, chain 2, work 3 front post double crochet stitches, you guys can probably hear my dogs outside the window. but there's my third front post double crochet stitch. We are going to chain, slip stitch, and chain, and just keep working all the way around. Okay, as you can see here, I'm coming up to the end of this round. I'm going to chain 2, slip stitch, chain 2, then I'm working my last 3 front post double crochet stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And now you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch. Okay, to start round 10, you are going to chain 2, work a front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Next, we are going to work 2 puff stitches right there into that chain space. So here I am working my first puff stitch. And in the same space, I'm going to work another puff stitch. And now we're going to begin our pattern repeat where we work 6 front post double crochets, then 2 puff stitches. And you're going to repeat that all the way around until you reach your last 3 front post double crochet stitches. Okay, we are coming up to the end of round 10. I've repeated all the way around and I'm working my last 2 puff stitches right here into the chain space. So here's my first puff stitch. I'm going to grab some more yarn, and into that same space I'm going to work another puff stitch like I have been. And now in your last 3 stitches you are going to work a front post double crochet. So there's number 1, there's number 2, and number 3. And now you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch. And like before, we are going to repeat this 3 more times for rounds 11, 12, and 13. So when we come back, we'll be ready to move on to round 14. Okay friends, we are now ready to start round 14. So to do that, you are going to chain 2 and work 3 front post double crochet stitches. So there's number 2 and number 3. Next, we are going to work 5 double crochet stitches worked in between the 2 puff stitches from the previous round. So, sorry that was out of frame. There's number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And now you're going to begin the pattern repeat all the way around. So you will work 3 front post double crochet stitches, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, work 3 more front post double crochet stitches, number 2 and number 3, and now we are going to work 5 double crochets in between those 2 puff stitches from the previous round. And you just keep repeating this all the way around and you will slip stitch to your very first stitch. Okay, so now we're ready to start round 15. For that, you are going to chain 2, work 3 front post double crochet stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And like before, as you can probably already tell, this pattern repeats. So you will chain, slip stitch to that 3rd double crochet from the previous round, and chain. Next, you will work 3 front post double crochet stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And like before, we are going to chain 2, slip stitch to that chain space, chain 2, and work 3 front post double crochet stitches. And you will keep repeating this pattern like before all the way around until your last stitch, and you will slip stitch to your first stitch to complete this round. So I'm going to chain, slip stitch, chain, front post double crochet, front post double crochet, front post double crochet, chain 2, slip stitch to that space, chain 2, and work 3 front post double crochet stitches. So just keep working this all the way around until you've reached the end, and you will slip stitch to your first stitch. Okay, so since we're making an adult size slouch hat, now we are going to do the repeating rounds. For the adult size beanie, we are going to repeat rounds 4 through 7. So to start off, we are going to chain 2, and in that chain space before our first stitch, we are going to work 1 puff stitch. Now we are going to work 6 front post double crochet stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. You're going to skip those stitches from the previous round, chain, slip stitch, chain. So you just keep working over 4, 5, and 6. And now you can already tell we're going to work 2 puff stitches into that chain space right there. And you just keep repeating this all the way around, and after your last 3 front post double crochets in that chain space, you want to make sure you work another puff stitch before you slip stitch to your first stitch. So just keep working. You may want to pause the video here because when we come back, we are going to move on to the decrease and closing for this beanie. Alright, as you can see, I've repeated rounds 4 through 7, and now we are going to start decrease round 1. And to do that, you are going to chain 2, and now we are going to front post double crochet 6 stitches. So there's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Next, you will skip those 2 puff stitches and begin your pattern repeat. 6 front post double crochets, skip 2 puff stitches. So all you are doing is just working front post double crochets in each stitch from the previous round, skipping the puff stitches. So just keep doing this all the way around and slip stitch to your first stitch. Okay, to start our decrease round 2, you will chain 2, and now we are just going to work a front post double crochet 2 together all the way around. So now I'm doing another front post double crochet 2 together, and then another front post double crochet 2 together. And you will just keep doing this all the way around until you reach your last stitch, and you will slip stitch to your first stitch to complete our decrease round 2. It's very easy, this closing. I really like this closing a lot better than I did previously. It just makes a nice and easy closing. So here I am, I'm just working my front post double crochets 2 together, and you're just going to keep working all the way around. Okay, and now to start our decrease round 3, it is very simple. You will just chain 1 and work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. and then you will slip stitch to your first stitch, fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing. Okay, I have made all my single crochets, slip stitch to my first stitch, and now I am using my scissors to fasten off my yarn. So I'm going to pull up, pull my yarn through, and now I'm going to thread my yarn needle. You may not need this long of a tail, but I always like to use more just in case, because it's better to have a little extra than not enough. So now you are going to use your yarn needle and you're going to weave your tail back and forth into every stitch, cinching it as you work around, pulling it taut. Okay, as you can see here, I've been cinching my hat closed, and sometimes you're left with a small hole. So what you want to do is just sew it shut by going back and forth, side to side, personal preference. You can do as much or as little as you like. I like to make sure mine is completely all the way closed off so you can't see any holes. So I'm just going to do another stitch right here just to get it completely shut. And next what I do is I put my yarn needle through the center of the hat. So I'm going to poke my yarn through there. I'm going to pull my tail all the way through, make a knot, and then I'm going to cut off my excess string, make another knot, make sure it's nice and tight and closed. So there's my long string. I'm just going to make a knot and fasten it off. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. I have more tutorials coming your way. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm at Hooked Up Crochet. And I'm just going to keep working. I like to make a lot of knots in mine just to make sure it's completely fastened off. But I really appreciate you guys following me and sending me pictures of your work. If you do post this pic on Instagram, make sure you tag me. I love seeing your work. So here it is, the Woven Hearts beanie, all complete. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys very soon with a brand new video series. I'm going to put a palm on this hat because you know I love palms. Well, thanks for watching.